You can put it in the chat, and it's a great place. There's even like a little emoji. Great. Good, Cammy. You can hear me. Good. Minimize them, reopen. Good, good, good. Nebraska. Yeah, tell me where you're from. And yeah, maybe even just like we could share a little bit, California, Nebraska, like one thing that, let's say, one fun thing about you. Okay, what's a fun fact? I usually like to share a fun fact. That's kind of a fun way for us to get to know each other. Fun fact is I grew up in New York City, and my first job was down in, as we call it, Slower, Delaware, right near the chicken farms. And every single weekend, being this, like, fresh out of college young lady who grew up in New York, I just hightailed it up the highway to make a beeline back up to New York. It's a great Marie. Grew up on a farm. Marie's here. Laura, hi. Julianne, great. Another chicken farmer. Yes, yes, yes. I will say they always kept, quote, threatening that I would end up marrying a chicken farmer. There were all, if you know, Purdue chicken farms down in Lower Delaware. And now, yes, one of my sons who's married has 4 children. They live on a small little farm, 5 acres, and they are raising chickens too. Sweet, sweet. Oh, Cammie, you were on a dating show in the 90s. It's so great. So, so wonderful. It's good. I love those. I love those things where they do an icebreaker where it's, what is it? Not that we should encourage each other to lie, but it's like 2 truths and a lie. It's the kind of thing that's like not realistic. But anyway, so as we're letting people come wandering in, if you could just tell us where you're from, a little fun fact that you might want to share. It just helps us to kind of liven up things. As I said, I am so grateful that you're spending some time with me here. Very, very grateful for that. Thank you so much. So let's see who else has joined us here. Laura has joined us. And so beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Nicole, then there's Marcel, yes, and Kathy. So good to see you guys here. I am thrilled to pieces to be with you. I love the fact that this community, keeps us away off all other social platforms so we won't get tempted. But in the meantime, I know I am going to, what I call, turn on my do not disturb. So that's always good too. Let's spend this time together, focusing on each other and turning off any kind of notifications. That's a really great way. So good. Hi. Yes, I know. Marcel, aren't you like are you in Argentina, I believe? Something like that, right? Is that did I remember that right? Anyway, Elizabeth, you're fixing supper and I'll be back and forth. Okay, not a problem. You just plug me in if you want. And also know that this whole thing this live stream is being recorded, and I will pop that up later. I'm also going to just let you know I'm going to go live again tomorrow night because, in typical fashion, I can't get everything done in one time, and I thought it'd be good for us. But I really do have a secret kind of behind the scenes mission with all of that, and that is that we're kind of right now. I've been getting so many messages and requests for all different things relating to getting your homeschooling started, getting it kind of your foot off on the right. I always forget cliches, but anyway, it's just getting off to a good start, being able to put your foot forward in the right direction with your family and homeschooling them in the whole, just being able to be together and in such a way that is different than what you've done before, different maybe even since last year, different from what you grew up with. You are being called. God is calling you, and He's calling you for something extraordinary. It is big. It is huge, and but He's not doing it to frustrate you. He's doing it to bring peace to your life, and it doesn't mean peace not in the middle of chaos. In fact, that's really where the faith and the trust comes in. So what I'd love to do is I'm going to share my screen. Let's see how this works because I've never done that before. And hopefully, I think what happens is I don't get to see the chat. Probably if I was smart, I would have brought my phone and could see the chat. So I'm going to go through this little teaching thing really quickly. And it's kind of an example of what we do when we're in the Thrive support group. And that we'll talk about later. But the idea is that sometimes, we can just get together and as I said, I've gotten all these questions and things coming up, and it's just a great way to put a little what I call teachable moment. And then we open it up to Q&A, and then we learn from each other. So that's really the beauty of this community is each other. So let's see if, without further ado, let's see if sharing the screen will work. And there we go. So that's the one I want to use. Can you guys all see it? I hope you can. Anyway, we're going to start. I'm starting already in the wrong slide. So there we go. Let's homeschool. Get ready, get set, go. Yay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute, if I can get there. And you guys can now all tell me, did that work? Did you actually get to see my screen? Because as I said, next time, I will bring my phone and I can see the chat. So just give me a little thumbs up. Yes, beautiful, wonderful. Yes. Okay, so we'll go back to sharing the screen again. Everybody's going to be like, Ella, what are you doing? Can you actually do this? So there we go. Hooray. Okay, let's homeschool, get ready, get set, go. I love this. I love the idea of us running a race. And it really is, a race. I always love to think about St. Paul, when he's towards the end of his life, and just this whole idea that we come before the Lord and we say, I ran that race. I did as well as I could. You carried me most of it, my good and faithful servant. And really, in many ways, that's exactly why we've chosen to homeschool and why we're homeschooling in the first place, is to really to help our children and ourselves to see the beatific vision. So here we go. Let's begin. As we begin in all things, we begin with prayer. So I invite you into the St. Teresa bookmark prayer. Again, just a beautiful one to put it all in perspective. In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God never changes. Patience obtains all things. Nothing is wanting to him who possesses God. God alone suffices. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, one of the things that I see floating all over the social media, which I just check for research, but I can get lost in it as well, even though I've now graduated, everybody through college, yay. But the big thing right now is that your home, yes, setting the environment you need for really making a love of learning comes first and foremost from your home. And it's about setting up the environment in such a way that's conducive to reading, to being able to just discover. And so I know that the temptation sometimes is there to kind of build a schoolroom. In some homes it just works better. It's much more conducive to have a separate area. But in my family, we tried that. It just was not natural to our family in the sense to have a place that seemed like learning happens here, but nowhere else in the house. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you provide the environment where there's lots of books, there's lots of opportunities, there's, a place, a little station for crafts, another place for being able, and they can be put away because if you have toddlers, of course, you don't want them getting out the markers and all the messy things and glue. But the idea is that in your home, you can provide learning experiences, even just simply showing off the shells that you collected on your last beach vacation, the feathers the kids collected on the walks that you did that night, being able to have this reference book so we can look up what we just found. So I want you to to really think hard about, one of the most fundamental things is just setting an environment for learning. That even means, the lighting that you use, the seating that you use, the flow, the ability to have a set place for, quote, school toys for the toddlers. Those are all important features to even think about. And a lot of times we just kind of try to copy what's done in schools. And truthfully, your home is not a school, and you know that. And so, therefore, I really, really want to encourage you to. There is one of the talks, and that we did in Catholic Homeschool Week. Mary Carmichael, she does Homeschool Flip House, and she talks all about setting up a beautiful environment in your family. She gives you some really sweet ideas. But I love having her come to talk, because we never really talk about it. You never hear about that. You just hear about, I need curriculum, I need, the computers. I want to make sure I get my headphones, but we don't hear about how the environment is conducive to learning, and being able to just even having a place for the kids to cuddle, like these three children are cuddling together, an older sibling reading to the younger siblings. So next big thing is schedules. And I'm hoping and praying that you all live in time abundance. And what does that mean? What exactly does time abundance? Because, Paola, we are short on time, aren't we? And I keep telling you, it goes faster and faster, especially when, our kids just seem to be growing so fast. And what I mean by that in particular is that time is precious. So, given that time is precious, we want to be intentional about how we spend it. So time abundance means not that we have forever, but that we want to live it abundantly in the small amount of time we have. Because really, truthfully, our children, by the time they're 18, you pretty much, that's it. You set it, and then they go, and they're launched into the world. And that's such a small time, really, in the whole span of their lives and your life as well. So when you're starting school, and I've heard this a lot lately too, please, please, please give yourself permission to take time and find the rhythm, because every single year it changes. It changes dramatically depending on the makeup of the kids. It may be a senior year in high school, it may be a first Holy Communion. So the rhythm is going to be different this year than it was last year. It really takes a good month to month and a half to feel a schedule. So do not be tied to a schedule, in the sense that this is just a work in progress. Let's set it, let's try it. But if it's becoming a source of frustration, things aren't working, adjust, and you will soon find a nice, steady rhythm. So I offer here batching and modeling, and that's something I've talked about before. People always seem to be curious about it, especially if you have teenagers. Batching, and you can even do this with little guys if you feel there's holes and they just absolutely need to concentrate on one particular skill. Batching means intentionally taking either a subject or a skill and really just working on that intensively, and putting aside perhaps some of the other subjects. And sometimes that's necessary. It may be that this particular child is just so feeling so dejected because they really can't seem to put together a paragraph. There are tears streaming down their face. Maybe it's just, what, we're going to do writer's workshop this week, and we're going to do everything to just really make it a fun writing experience. And we're going to skip math, we're going to skip history for the next week or two, and we're going to batch it out till we really get to a level of some mastery. Then the modeling, and what I'm talking about and that is being able to set up schedules, in the sense that your older children, you can give them a list of what you expect for that week, and then have them map it out, but you need to tweak it for them. They need to check with you. And that too takes some time to learn. This, again, they're a work in progress as well. So the idea is you will be modeling for them, how to make a schedule, how to be able to manage their time. So you don't do them a favor by giving them, especially by the time they turn like into 6th grade, you don't do them a favor by being able to just actually give them everything. Okay. When you're giving them everything. So now I want to stop sharing for a minute here. I want to make sure. Okay. That environment speaker's name was Mary Carmichael. Mary Carmichael. Her talk, if you do become a member of the Thrive group, if you decide to do that, we are taking all those Catholic Homeschool Week talks and putting them in a special video library where you can tap into that. But I'll also put in the link after this talk, Mary Carmichael's website, so you can go to her. I think she did a radio interview where she talks about homeschooling and environment. So everybody's still doing okay? I hope so. I just wanted to, as I said, this is live, this is on the fly, and I'm sharing the screen and trying to figure out how's everybody doing. We're doing okay so far. Just a thumbs up, use your emojis. I do really want you to take this to heart on schedules. Is anybody having difficulty putting your schedules together? I hope and pray that you understand, and you'll see, I suggest that you do have definitely a schedule, but that you give yourself permission to make it adjustable. And when I talk about the idea of teenagers, and really it starts with the young things too, the whole idea is that we want to launch them into the world with skills. And so we do such a disservice very often by thinking we have to provide everything for them. And really, really is important for us to be able to give them the confidence when they leave our homes to say, yeah, I know how to make a schedule. Now, Cami puts in a great comment. She says, I struggle to stick with a schedule for some reason. I do too. Does it mean I give up on a schedule? No, I mean, I really feel sometimes, some weeks, like I'm okay, back on track. And so it is sometimes, and that's one of the important things we need to do, is to pause and try to reflect as to why it's hard for us to keep a particular schedule. Sometimes it's because we're just doing too much. Now I'm going to go back to sharing the screen here. Let's go back because I have a few more quick little slides to show that. This is something, let's see. I wanted to make sure I got through all of the things on this slide. Hang on a minute. Yeah, okay. And I wanted you to make sure that you spend some time outside. Very, very important. Time is not replaceable. Yes. Everything else is, but time is so precious, is it not? And then we're going to talk about getting back on track. Well, that's when I talk about the big 6. Okay, the big 6 are the things, and this is exactly what you brought up, Cami, is that you'll see all the way down on this list. But the big 6, number 1, sleep. Sleep really gets us off track all the time. Children's nap times, trying to fit that in, especially if you have little babies and maybe people are sick. And so one of those things is that sleep is so important to us, but as parents, we have to be forgiving. And we have to build our schedule in such a way that says, I'm not going to spend realistically 8 hours a day with school, still make dinner, go shopping, get to doctor's appointments. It's just plain out not reasonable. Okay. So plan your day, but add in derailment time. And in the sense that if you're understanding, as you're planning out, or you're maybe taking a textbook and you're saying, okay, this book is got 180 lessons, which is way too much for a year, by the way. Schools never finish their books, so please do remember that. But the idea is that if you have a book and you want to get done in a certain amount of time, always add in an extra week or 2. Please do that, because somebody's going to get sick. You're going to have to go to the doctors. Things take longer than we think. So when we plan our day, we have to plan them with derailment time and with an ability to set boundaries. And that means actually having a hard stop time. Even though sometimes we feel like, well, no, if we could just get this writing assignment done, then we'll be ahead. Well, there is no behind in homeschooling. There's mastery. Again, Let's take the long view in this. And the long view is that a skill or concept well mastered is so much more valuable than completing a whole textbook and getting just a bunch of stuff done. So set up hard stop times every day so that you have family time, so your children have time to explore their interests. Do understand that means you may have to say no to certain things. You may have to cut out, that typing program you wanted to do. Or maybe it was this year we were going to start choir, but really based on all the other important things, maybe we need to wait another year for choir. So remember the activities outside your home. Some of those are non-negotiables. Maybe you have therapy sessions, you have kids who need to go to a therapist, you have doctor's appointments, you have, a parent who's elderly that you need to visit. Make those non-negotiables part of your planning as well. And then also, this is a really, really important one. Set time limits on tasks. No point letting your 14-year-old son sit for 2 hours trying to get his algebra done. Just say, okay, you're getting done in an hour, and that's it. And if they don't get it all done, then they're going to have to work on their fun time in the evening or their fun time on the weekends. Okay. So, and then the big one, put your temptations away, like your phone, notifications on your computer, stay off social media. Just, sometimes it means shutting the door to the laundry room because you can see all the piles, or staying out of the kitchen because we can see all the things that have to be done and dinner being made. So we're going to work just on goal generating ideas. And that gets into the bigger picture of things I talk about. Again, this, you may have heard me many, many times, but one goal per year per child. You want more information about that. That's in some of the other talks I've done before. But the idea being, when you pick one major goal area of growth for your child, that becomes the central activity that always gets done, and then everything goes around it. Okay. So there are villains to peace: perfectionism, procrastination. If we overthink our stuff, or second guessing ourselves, overbooking ourselves, or changing our curriculum often. And this is the other one: we don't ask for help. And I mean that from our spouses, from our friends, from our neighbors. We do need to ask for help, and from each other here in the community. So it's time to get cozy. Yeah, it's time to really bring home, making it just something so pleasant for everybody. That means being present. We don't only have them for such a short time. They need to see you. I love this picture of this mommy. The way she's looking at her little child is so sweet. It's so sweet. She just is taking him all in. How many times have you stopped to pause to just look at their beautiful faces? That's it. Just looking at their beautiful faces, those are sweet moments. Don't forget to take time for that. The chores, are we doing some good things? Laundry, feeding, getting, ourselves all organized? Or are we actually just stopping and pausing, stopping to smell the roses? The other thing that's really big about being present is make time for that. And that means if we write it into our schedule, then it happens. And that may mean actually scheduling even just 10 minutes. And this morning in our rosary gathering session, dear Natalie talked about being able to take a break based on the number of minutes on the age of the child. So 6 minutes for a 6-year-old. Her daughter's going to be 7, so she moves up to 7 minutes. So if your little one saying, "Mommy, please play a game for me," you could do 7 minutes. Absolutely. Remove what you can. Now, what's possible? What's really possible when you do that? And then this one, you'll have to indulge me in this little post here. I love cats. I just couldn't resist this picture because we need to talk about recreation. What does recreation mean? It's about what do we do to recharge ourselves, because we all get burned out. We are so tired. So let's really think about what's bringing you energy. What are some of the things? I'd love for you to put in the chat. For you, what's restful for you? How do you decompress? I do think for me, the happy place for me is the beach. Well, but I can't always get to the beach all the time. So does that mean I have to wait and just pine away for going to the beach? No, I actually can go and take a walk. I happen to live in a town that's on the riverfront of the Delaware River. And when I take a walk on that, I can still smell a bit of the water, the ocean air, even though it's a river. And I can see the seagulls, and there's a little sandy beach, and take a deep sigh, and that really restores me again. And I can start to be creative again, and I can start feeling joyful again. So please take some time, put it in a little journal, and say, what are those things that help me to get energy? Please put them in your schedule. Please make time for them. What are the possibilities or opportunities that I will see if I just take one action from today? One of these things that we talk about, just one, make a change. Remember, you do have support. And I love this quote from that beautiful Pope, St. John Paul the Great. Remember, it is important that families attempt to build bonds of solidarity amongst themselves. Yes, this allows them to assist each other in the educational enterprise. Parents are educated by other parents, and children by other children. And that's really what, again, thank you for indulging me as I was trying slides out here. But it's really important for us to be here together. And that's why I'm so grateful that you showed up on your evening to spend a little time with me and all these other beautiful families. I hope that you get to know each other as well, because we are educated with each other. We are. Just like I said this morning when we went to do Rosary Live together, I just so honored that one mother's question makes another mother say, that happens to you? Me too. Oh gosh. Wow. I love that. That's a great tip. I never thought of it that way. It's a way for us to affirm our calling that we are in, because it's a really, really important calling. And yet it's really, really hard, and it's counterculture. And I know that the world is, all you have to do is look at the news, and it's distressing. It can be very disheartening. But God has provided a path for us. And it is not, it's the road less traveled. Although more so these days, more families are homeschooling. In my day, I didn't have the support of my extended family. They wanted to convince me that it wasn't going to work. And that was super hard, to be able to go against, grandparents who, love your children very much. But ultimately, I had to answer with my husband and I, through prayer to God. And I can say, looking back, it was the best decision we could have ever made for our children. It was the best education. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Did I make plenty of mistakes? Absolutely. Every single day. Did I fall off my schedule? Absolutely. But what kept me going was really trust and surrendering to God and to his path for us, and reaching out to other people. And that is really my hope and prayer for this community, is that we are in such a beautiful, place right here, and that we can be that for each other. So please do. Yes, Cami says, I struggle with fitting in school, all the meals, chores. Okay. So restful time is important, because if we're not rested, then, it's like, that silly t-shirt that says, if mama ain't happy, then nobody ain't happy. And that's very, very true, right? Yeah. An 11-year-old daughter can stare at her work all day and has no shame that it's not getting finished. I love it. She knows that. But there do have to be consequences. But the reality of it is that also, when you're talking about 11, first of all, that goes very quickly. There's probably some very, very clear things. It can be environment, and it can also be, The idea, same problem. I know. See, so now you guys can totally, I would love for you to get, this whole going on live in this community. I will say they're launching very soon where I'll be able to invite people into this. So it's not just me doing all the talking. We can talk to each other through the chat, but I'd love for you guys to meet each other. And that's essentially what we do. Right, Marie, when we're in in the Thrive group, that is what we do. We get together and we get to see each other, and that's what we help each other through these. And Julianne and Marie can help each other because you can relate to each other. And then myself and other moms who've been through it before might be able to say, well, I did have one that was kind of that way too. I mean, for me, I remember my son, I used to say, he really was like I used to call it a closet speller. Okay. So he would hand in papers to me and everything was misspelled. Everything was such a mess. And I think, dear Lord, how is he ever going to get to college? He can't even spell things correctly. So I remember a talk from Kimberly Hahn who had said, it's really important to let our kids fail because failure is really the ability to succeed, and the idea is that we very often, especially homeschooling moms or parents, want to protect our kids because we feel sometimes, yes, it's prideful. It's a reflection on us. Oh my gosh, they're not a good speller. What a terrible mother I've been. And it has nothing to do with you. It's about a will, and it may be actually a real learning disability. For my son, it was not that. It was that he wanted to do the minimum that he had to. And we decided to do a spelling bee with all 4 children, the 4 oldest. Now, so there he is, 6 years older than the 4th one. So 3 boys, then a girl. And she was spelling circles around her older brother. The prize was a Kit Kat bar, which was exactly his most favorite chocolate. And all of a sudden, he kicked it into gear and was able to spell to win the contest. So it was an ability for me to say, this is really something more for him to understand what motivates him. And as a teenager, it's a really important skill to know, am I a carrot person or am I a stick person? And to be able to learn how to find motivation and perseverance when there's things. And so it was really more a matter of not a spelling problem, but a virtue problem. Anyway, so Marie said, since we're on the same boat, and another advice, you mean in terms of your little 11-year-old? Yes. I'm not super quick in the mornings. Okay, so I think Marie and Julian, you're talking about 11-year-old daughter and the same problem. And so, we can be creative about that. So the 11-year-old does have to have some consequences. And the idea is that making her just sit there obviously is not. Now, every child has something that really kind of is kind of like they know your buttons. Well, you need to spend a little time knowing what their buttons are. Okay. So for example, it may be that they really don't want to, they really, what is it that really would get them going? It could be, for example, they really want to spend time with daddy when he comes home. They absolutely love when he reads a story. It can be that you find out that, for example, that they really feel embarrassed about their work, or maybe the work that they're doing is because you really have to ask them aside from it, like they get embarrassed in front of their siblings, so they're not going to tell you exactly unless you pull them aside in a private area and say, honey, I've noticed that you're just staring at your work. And it's hard to make a judgment, but like I would ask the question exactly, what kind of work are they doing? Is it a math problem? Is it, across the board? Is it about time? Is it about focus? Because if they're having a really, you have to kind of be a detective in that way. Is it subject based? Well, then you can tackle the subject by picking out different materials and understanding their learning style. It can just be that they're not motivated and they really want to just be able to be an outside the box thinker, there may be a more hands-on person, and there's a way to mix that up. So having, a child who are they daydreaming? Are there stories in their heads being better? Uh, I'm hoping that I'm giving these are some ideas to give you in terms of being able to be that detective for your child, pull them aside, and really help them to understand their learning style and what motivates them, and making sure that it's not a disability. It may be, as I say, just a virtue problem. And what I would do is put the whole family on a particular virtue week, and using something like the PACE program, where we, through stories, can help them to see themselves. There is a book, and one of those books that's really, really great is the book Steve Covey, Covey. Covey did like the 7 Habits of Teenagers, and the only thing I really took out of that book was this idea that our children do want to be virtuous, because we all have the call to holiness. And I think when we appeal to that call to holiness, even in a little 11-year-old, then we say, what kind of a person do you want people to think you are? Do you want them to think you're courageous? Or do you want them to think you're helpful? Maybe you're generous, putting it in terms of the virtue. Do you want them to think you're an honest person? So the ability to have them turn the focus on how they are now being viewed by other people in terms of their virtues and their God's asking them to be, is a beautiful way to touch their hearts and help them to get outside themselves. So, yes, so Julian, she's always telling stories. She's probably a child that has, and I know I have several of those, and what we call those dreamers are actually people that very often are very imaginative. And there's a double-edged sword with imagination. We can have an imagination that kind of runs away with us, that controls us. And that may be the case of your little 11-year-old. So things that help to control the imagination are small tasks like poetry memorization, because it forces us to, in small snippets, have a response where we're calling out of our brain something that we've memorized. And that skill of doing poetry memorization, doing your spelling orally, any of that kind of work where we're doing, or catechism questions, ask the question, repeat it back, memorize scripture verses. Those are all exercises in training our imagination to have at will, our ability to call upon our imagination when we want to, not to just drift off and let it carry us away. So I hope that, yes. So again, have trouble motivating kids to memorize poems. And part of it is, again, I always loved what Andrew Puba used to say, anytime you turn something into a game, it's immediately fun. So the ability to, thank you, Simone, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, Steve Covey, that's that book, yes, about what is the kind of person you want to be when you grow up, and that really helps empower the kids. But as far as poetry memorization, just having it as a recitation night once a month, we're working on our poems, and we're going to do them in front of daddy, or we're going to illustrate it in a book. 5 minutes. Maybe you're doing it too long. There is such a thing also as what we call a hindrance to memorization. And that's if you're working on something way too many times. Oh, repeat it. No, you didn't get it. No, start over again. You're actually hindering the memorization. It's literally, you say the line, have them repeat it, say the line, add another line, and just have them work on stanzas at a time. So that really, yep. The Sean Covey, I think is his son who did the book, a second book on the teenagers. Exactly. The dad did the book on the adults. Good. Very, very good. And Pace is a wonderful book by Monica Speech. I absolutely adore that. There are, in that book, the virtues, I split it up where we really only did 3 virtues a year, because I found I didn't want to go through them so quickly. So we would do 3 a year and then just rotate it every 3-4 years, and by the time you get through all of them. But there are so many beautiful stories to read aloud that pertain to certain, so if perseverance or generosity is the virtue your children need to just pulling from the saints that exemplified that. She's done all the work for you. There's also little workbooks if you want to use them, but we did it family style. I made it very loose, and it was the virtue for the next 3 months. We're going to work on. It can be even just quotes that become their handwriting. So these are all ways to incorporate that. Yep. Catholic Sprouts has a virtue study too. Yes, I think for the little guys as well. And yes, our virtues are, our vices are built in our virtues, aren't they? I love that. And thank you, Elizabeth, for putting the links in there too. My goodness, this has been such a wonderful time. Any other, I'm going to go through this, see now that I can see the chats. Yes. Anything else that you want to bring up? But I really wanted to, I'm going to tell you just quickly that tomorrow I'm going to go live again. It's going to be a little earlier, 6:30 tomorrow Eastern time. That's Eastern time, 6:30. And again, don't worry, I will record this because I figured if I do these before the weekend, then you can binge watch over the weekend and be able to take some notes. But you should be able to see this. What I would like to, of course, encourage all of you to do is to be able to take a look at the Thrive Support Group. It is the paid portion of the free. Please, the free, we're going to keep doing these things. I'm going to still show up live. We're going to still say Rosary Live. We're going to still have events. But if you're feeling that you really, really want to be able to get to share with each other in a more intimate way, in a more personal, close-knit way, if you want consistency, which really doesn't exist anywhere else, even if you're in a program, they have teachers, they have coaching, but this is really about traveling together, just being invested in each other. It's not like Facebook where somebody says, oh, what math program do you use? And you get 20 responses, but they don't know you. They don't know your family situation. But in the Thrive Group, we have this community that's a little closer. We spend more time with each other. We're going to have now a weekly social time and accountability, so you can really get into a tight group and then even a tighter group. And then we will be doing mentor. I'm inviting sweet dear friends of mine that will be coming live and will share their tips with you, like Mary Ellen Barrett. Jen McIntosh is coming in September, and we have Bonnie Landry, a bunch of other moms that will be coming into the community once a month to share with us. And the best part is the time that we do with in-service huddles. So I will say, I'll put the link on in the community, but tomorrow we are doing our in-service huddle. One of the best things we do, which is we give ourselves scheduled, focused time to really hunker down and get something done. Sometimes it's as simple as just, paying the bills, but most of the time it's doing grading, planning, and then we just turn on the timer, 60 minutes. We set our goals. We share our wins because that's so important. So you can use the community as your restful, recreated time to just spend some time having fun with each other. So super great. I really want to thank you. Thank you so much for participating in the chat, and me getting to know you a little bit in there. If there's any other questions or this or that, please feel free to send me a direct message. I hang out in the community. I really rarely in any place else because I have a problem, keeping myself straight and just getting totally depressed by the Facebook, the world out there. This place is such a loving, amazing, such a gift in the world. And I thank you so much for being a part of this. So, great. Oh, came in the ideas, first day week of school to kick off. We always made a cake because food is always, language of love in my family. Okay, that love language. And we started school always after Labor Day because my family, our business was Emmanuel Books. We sold Catholic homeschooling books. So we were super busy until that point. Everybody, if you can count, you unpacked boxes and packed up orders for people for their homeschooling books. And we always started school on the Blessed Mother's birthday because we could have a cake and sing her happy birthday. So being able to there's beautiful feast days coming up. I know we have Saint Augustine, we have Saint Monica coming up, beautiful saint for mothers, and just being able to live the liturgical year and bring that into our family, a special day going to mass, a daily mass, and then going out for breakfast and saying, yay, we started school, and then spend the next day just buying some new notebooks. And kids love a new set of markers or crayons. They're really inexpensive now. And being able to start slowly. Don't have to do every single subject all at once. Yes, thank you for asking that question, because we always just started slow. And even if it's like the poetry, so you know what? We're going to read a story and we're all going to do poems together. Maybe learn a new hymn to sing together. Make it sweet, because it's the memories. It's about the relationship you have with our Lord. It's a model our relationship with our children. It's that modeling for them the relationship and the importance of our hearts. And so please spend time just doing those things that make beautiful memories for your family. So take care. Thank you so much. I'll get the replay for this up as soon as it's available. And I thank you. And I hope I can get to see some of you tomorrow. And if not, the replay will be available over the weekend as well. God bless you. May God bless you abundantly. Bye-bye.